It's my pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Olimpia, and I'm a designer architect, mainly doing work in the Bronx. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to teach you today how I do like a quick assessment on a lot. And I usually start, my go-to app to do this is Arc. So we go to Arc, create a new project here. I'm going to start by giving a project name. In this case, I'm going to use Crotona Avenue for this exercise. Is going to be R71 zoning district. Usually for this, we're going to go for 9 floors. And then because we are doing affordable housing, my building height maximum is 115 feet. So here I choose the lot, which is the interior lot. We can either choose the lot, or here in this next step, I can change my lot lines, either say side, front, or street. I can name my street. I can also say if the street is wide, if my street is narrow. And then when I said that, we go to the next step. Here, I'm going to tell Arc my footprint. In this case, I want it to be my building to be 60 feet, and then by 99. And then on the next step is going to generate some different options for my core. The cores usually have already the required 2 means of egress. So I'm going to choose the one that is best fit for this case. And when at this section here, I'm going to select all the floors and I'm going to edit. And here, this is where we were talking that we need to tell Arc which walls are solid walls. So Arc doesn't read it as a wall available for light and air. So here I'm selecting the walls are solid. So there's not going to be no windows on the side lot lines walls. And then I'm going to generate using AI. In this case, I'm going to use the percentage. My studios, we want to go for 25% studios, 45 one bedrooms, 30% 2 bedrooms. Usually is the typical mix of units that HPD wants to see. And I'm going to select apply selected. I'm going to do the same thing with the back of the building, percentage, using the percentage. The owner, not just the owner, but the HPD wants to see. So Arc creates, give me the units. Go to the section. I see that I have 72 units. I actually allow 75 units. So I'm going to start making some adjustments. So I'm going to detach the top floor from the rest of the floor. So the changes that I'm going to make to these floors are not going to affect the other floors. So I also am going to detach the first floor. And I'm going to create my separate first floor. So in this case, for the first floor, I'm going to create my exits towards the street. So that's why I'm going to do some corridors towards the street. And then I'm going to create my exit towards the back of the building. So we always want to have to keep the 2 means of egress on the right side of the building. In this case, I'm going to make it wider. So that will be mainly my main entrance. So in this case, I'm going to change and generate some of the areas to make the changes that I want to see. I have too many studios, so I'm going to start playing around with generating different units instead of a studio. I want to have here a 1 bedroom. And then also I want to also give it more space to the 1 bedrooms. So giving more space to the entrance and those things to make it more to work realistically works. So here you see me making some of those adjustments through the floor, giving a little bit more to some of the other units and making more one bedrooms instead of studios. Excuse me. Here I continue to create more one bedrooms. So my mix of unit in the percentage when you see later on, it's better than I was looking at before. So here I will create another one bedroom. Okay. Here I'm going to also create different units. So I'm going to regenerate using AI, and I'm going to tell Art that I want two one bedrooms instead of a big two bedroom. So I'm going to apply selected, and I'm just going to keep going around and making sure that I'm happy with the layout. I can double click on the lines, which are the walls, so I can break them and I move them. And I make sure that I see that I have enough space. And here I'm going to also, this two bedroom, I'm going to delete this two bedroom, and I'm going to generate it into two different units. I'm going to do one studio and one bedroom. AI is going to show me the one bedroom here the one studio, I'm sorry, doesn't have access from the corridor. So I'm going to rearrange that and keep moving around some walls to giving more spaces to one apartment to another one to play around, to show entrance to the apartments with the required, minimum size. Okay, so here I'm going to go check my numbers. I have my 75 units. Usually, clients, owners, and developers want you to maximize on the units, meaning that you are allowed. So in this case, I'm looking good. I have my 75 units. Okay, here, when I look at the chart, I went back to the section because my percentage of studios was too high. So now when I made those changes, now my two bedrooms are 29%. So this helps me to go back and forth and make changes and adjustment to the floor plan in order for me to present it to the clients and developer that what they're looking for. They don't want too many studios. So in this case, I copy the first floor in order to make the cellar. So the cellar is a copy of the first floor. So now I delete everything that has to do with the units, because on the cellar we're not going to have no units. I'm going to delete everything, and instead of I generating these rooms, I'm going to assign them as mechanical rooms and amenities. I also want to use the wall tool, and I'm going to make some rooms as per some of the programs required for this kind of buildings. And in this case, I'm going to show my meter rooms, my sprinkler room. I'm going to assign my trash room, my bike rooms, and so on. So this one, instead of amenity, I'm going to change it to mechanical, and that's going to be my trash room next to my trash rooms. And this one is my bike room. I also want to create two more rooms, in which I'm going to assign them as my laundry room and some storage. So I feel happy with this. I go back to, and I see that I'm 90 feet. My building height, maximum building height is 115, but I'm going to change that. So in this case, I'm going to create as a small setback to create a dormer. And by doing the dormers, these apartments look extremely small. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to take away a little bit from the corridor in order to make these apartments a little bit larger. So I'm going to generate, and instead of percent, I'm going to do a number. I'm going to tell Arc that I want a studio here. And here I move around to make sure that the rooms and the apartments, they actually have a correct access and space. And we can also use the little dimension. You can actually check dimensions, and that is a plus. So save your project as long when you move along so you don't lose your work. I'm gonna change the height, floor height. In this case, I'm gonna go from 120 to 112 per floor to ceiling height for all the top floors, and I'm gonna bring down my building height to 85 feet. Okay, now I can see my 3D, which looks great. And now I'm going to go back to my charts and I'm going to look at my numbers. And we are 51,000 total. So now we're going to go back to use some deductions. Let's deduct the cellar. We also want to do 50% of the corridors. So more or less for the first floor and the top floors, in order to make sure that I am under my 51,000 square feet allow zoning floor area. So here, so I'm happy with my numbers, and Arc helps me to see and to see that I'm reaching that goal and not going over the maximum square feet allowed per New York City zoning. And this is my 3D. Thank you.